you talk about disposition being more important than position.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, listen, I know some billionaires that are pretty miserable, and I know some guys with boring office jobs that are very happy. I think your disposition it's very difficult to change, but it's often easier than changing the world. You know, you're in your head on your own an awful lot of the time. No matter how connected you are, no matter how great your family, you are you. And, you know, the acceptance of that and the way that you see the world, the rose-tinted glasses of looking at the world, looking for jokes, is pretty tremendous. I think the thing that makes a difference to people on disposition is, in the most part, it's gratitude can kind of move the dial. That's the thing that seems to make a difference. Because it's that thing of like, if you're in a bad mood all the time, you're not in a bad mood, you're an arsehole. It's the truth of it. So how are you most of the time? How you treat a waiter or a waitress, or how you react when you get a speeding ticket, or any of those little things, because life is going to throw lots of that stuff at you. How do you react to it? How are you in the world? Is it a sunny disposition, or are you kind of, you know, are you boring?
Well, you've been through bouts of depression, as I have. I actually thought throughout all of my 20s that I was depressed. I thought that was the texture of my mind. I thought it was locked in, like the worst weed trip that you've ever had. This is me for the rest of my life.
Okay, so I'm interested in conflated words. Mm-hmm. And I often think depression is conflated with sadness. Mm. And sadness is much more difficult to admit, and it's much more, there's more of a stigma around being depressed. There's a certain glamour to being depressed.
It's aloof, it's sort of this mysterious thing, it's pathologized.
It suggests depth. Whereas sadness is just, you sad fuck. You're sad. What do? You've got a surface level life. You run clubs. I'm sure you're having a nice time, whatever. Yeah. But it's surface level. So that depression was maybe sadness. But I think if it's environmental, if you could change it, if it's not to do with the serotonin levels in your head and the chemical imbalance, then if you can do something about it, it's sadness. So assuming it's sadness and that you can do something about it. I mean, listen, it's people with real mental health problems, and my heart goes out to them. But for a lot of people, it's just it's circumstantial.
But you went through periods of acute sadness or depression, however you want to label it. And yet you've managed to get yourself to a stage largely.
Anxiety's been is really my
drug of choice.
Yeah. And anxiety, I think there's a gift in there. I think the gratitude that I have for anxiety it's the flip side of creativity.
Correct.
That your mind is racing, and sometimes you're trying to solve a problem in the future because you don't have anything to do now. It's why people talk about, I'm so happy when I exercise, because you're giving yourself a problem right now. If you're anxious about silly things in the future, or I get very tied up with, and your mind is dealing with whatever, lifting that up and putting it down.
Yeah, you put 120 kilos on a bar. You're not thinking about much else other than, I really need to get this off me.
Yeah, that thing of like, that simple thing of going, you probably don't have enough to do, counterfactuals, and wondering about what might have been and what should I have done. And, it kind of links to me to that weird thing of like, no one's scared of falling off a cliff. We're worried about jumping. There's kind of a weird thing of going, well, what if I'd done something different? What if I could mess
told you
this
that you've heard that Douglas Murray thing about in life we must choose our regrets, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can have anything, you can't have everything.
Yeah, that what could have been, we can't split test life, we can't go back and give this another crack.
I tell you, for a guy with a sunny disposition, it's a very serious conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
I quite like this. I feel like in the moment, to call it feels very revealing to have this conversation. Because it doesn't feel unlike the conversation we had at dinner the other day, but it is that thing if you go, it's kind of showing more of yourself than normally it's just dick jokes.
Wait until people see you haven't got pants on underneath.
Yeah. Cut to the wide.
It needs to be very wide. So I'm interested in this. If anxiety is your malady, your mental malady of choice, and yet you've managed to get yourself to a state where you are in a sunny disposition at least some non-zero amount of the time.
Well, sorry, just to go back to, because I'm still thinking about position, because people climb to a position and they think happiness is going to live there. And I think you'd be better served trying to make yourself happy and then worrying about where you're going. I think your happiness, your emotional well-being, working on that first seems to be a very sensible thing, because it doesn't live down the road. It doesn't live, you put $1 million in the bank, it won't make you less insecure. That kind of scarcity mindset is kind of poison.
Is that a lesson that can be learned without going and seeing the top of the mountain yourself? Because there will be a lot of people that could say, Jimmy, easy for you to say about fame isn't going to fix your problems, money isn't going to fix your problems. You've achieved both.
Well, fame, I think, has replaced heaven in a secular world. Fame is the land of milk and honey, where everything is okay and you're looked after and it's perfect. And I'm not knocking it. I love being famous, but it's not the be all and end all. And actually, again, you can kind of split test that, because I can go to a country where I'm not known. Not many, but there's a few.
You talk about why trajectory is so important as well. And I think that this ties in here.
It's all people see, isn't it? Like, people aren't interested in how, if you're playing 250 shows a year, like, I've been doing that for years. It's not exciting. It's not news. It's news when people arrive and they're new. So when something, in, I think, film and TV and comedy and kind of entertainment, it's like, it's all about where were they last year, where are they this year? Just maintaining. No one seems to care. Although comics aren't entertainers in the true sense. The true definition of an entertainer is, if you don't like me, I don't like me.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's a real entertainer.
You've outsourced your self-worth to the crowd.
Of course, that's what an entertainer is. And I know guys that are entertainers. A friend said that to me, and it was like, oh man, that is your journey. Good luck. That's hard. Comedians desperately want to be loved, but entirely on their own terms.